Everything is propaganda. Today, Propaganda Fluent Book Reading is going to be fun. Welcome back to Propaganda Fluent. I'm Layla, and today we're going to be starting something different. We're starting with a book that predicted our current moment with disturbing accuracy 63 years ago. Ellul's Propaganda, The Formation of Men's Attitudes, was published in 1965, but written in the early 60s. Ellul was a French sociologist and philosopher, watching the rise of mass media, mass education, and what he called technological society. When I first picked up the book, I expected the usual academic take on political messaging and wartime propaganda, but what I found instead was a blueprint for exactly how social media, influencer culture, and our entire information ecosystem actually operate today. Ellul wasn't writing about dictatorships manipulating peasants. He was writing about educated, democratic societies where people voluntarily participated in their own influence, where the most sophisticated propaganda doesn't feel like propaganda at all. It feels like discovering who you really are. A microtrend. The first passage comes from page 6 of the introduction. This is where Ellul makes a distinction that completely reframes how we think about influence, essentially. The most trenchant distinction made by Ellul is between agitation propaganda and integration propaganda. The former leads men from mere resentment to rebellion. The latter aims to make them adjust themselves to desired patterns. The two types rely entirely on different means. Both exist all over the world. Integration propaganda is needed especially for the technological society to flourish, and its technological means, mass media among them, in turn make such integration propaganda possible. When most people think about propaganda, they think about what he categorizes as agitation propaganda. Stuff designed to make you angry, to get you to feel flustered and revolt, ultimately, to change your political alliances. Think political attack ads or wartime posters. But Ellul says the really dangerous stuff is integration propaganda. This isn't trying to change your mind, it's trying to change your entire way of life. It's not making you angry at the system, it's making you perfectly adapted to the system. When I first read this, I was truly shocked. I mean, this totally, completely changed my perspective on how to even categorize things like education. And it made me realize that a lot of the things we take for granted as normal in our society are potentially weaponized. Something like education, for example. We're told that education protects you from manipulation, that if you read more, consume more information, fact check everything, you'll be immune to propaganda, right? Ellul says that's backwards. Education, at least how we do it now, actually makes you more susceptible to sophisticated propaganda. Why? Because it trains you to absorb massive amounts of secondhand information and then have strong opinions about that information. Think about your social media feed. How much of what you know about current events, health trends, productivity systems, or really anything comes from direct experience versus something you read, watched, or heard from someone else? If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably someone who reads a lot, stays informed, has opinions about things happening in the world. Ellul is saying you're the prime target. Think about how this plays out on social media. The algorithm shows you some news story or trending topic. You feel this internal pressure to have a take. You don't have time to research it deeply, so you absorb a few different perspectives from sources you trust, synthesize them into your own informed opinion, and then share that opinion as if you came to it through your own independent analysis. But the thing is, you ultimately didn't. You assembled your opinion from pre-packaged components that were already designed to lead you to certain conclusions based on your biases, based on how you feel about certain politicians or products or opinions. It's already predetermined, essentially. The propaganda worked perfectly, and it worked because you consider yourself smart enough to see through the propaganda. The last passage from the introduction explains why propaganda succeeds even when people are being influenced. In fact, the need for propaganda on the part of the propagandee, the person who's consuming propaganda, is one of the most powerful elements of Ellul's thesis. Cast out the disintegrating microgroups of the past, such as family, church, or village, the individual is plunged into a mass society and thrown back upon his own inadequate resources. I mean, wow. He understood what was happening. His isolation, his loneliness, his ineffectuality. Remember, when he wrote this at the time in the early 60s, they had communities. It's not like it is now. Propaganda then hands him in abundance what he needs: a raison d'être, personal involvement and participation in important events, an outlet and excuse for some of his most default impulses, righteousness, all fictitious, to be sure, all more or less spurious. But he drinks it all in and asks for more. Now, this part really got to me, obviously, because the foresight, the ability to see the modern landscape and what was coming along, because again, this was written in the early 60s. They didn't see the isolation and the siloing of people and opinions and microgens. Modern life in itself is isolating, confusing, and overwhelming. We're disconnected from traditional sources of meaning and community. So when someone offers us a complete worldview, a sense of purpose, a community of like-minded people, and a clear set of actions we can take to feel like we're making a difference, we jump on it, even if some part of us knows it's manufactured. Think about the last time you really got excited about a new framework or a new way of organizing your life, or a political cause you wanted to support. I mean, we see this all the time. Or even just a content creator whose lifestyle you want to emulate. How much of that excitement was about the thing itself versus the relief of having a clear answers and sense of belonging? So, where does this all leave us? This is the first introduction, and I think that we can safely say, based on his analysis of modern life and what's actually happening, and his, again, foresight to be able to see what's coming down the pipeline, I think it's reasonable to suspect that he had an educated opinion and insight into modern propaganda and how it will affect us in the long run. And if you like more content, please check out my Substack, or you can subscribe to my Patreon, whichever one you prefer. Thanks for listening. This is Propaganda Fluent, and I'm Layla.